All right, everybody. So we're gonna begin our transmission and return to Japan and get the update from Japan from Shige Moriyama from Yamato Transport Company Limited.
Hello, this is Shige Moriyama from Yamato Transport, a shipper in Japan. Thank you very much for giving such an opportunity to share information related to Tokyo Olympics this time. Let's share, I wish to share from the general information. Tokyo Olympics has decided to be held at originally on year 2020 at the IOC General Assembly held at Buenos Aires, Argentina on September 2013. At that time, competitor cities were Istanbul, Turkey, and Madrid, Spain. There were already many news, I believe you know, including small or big, arose since then. One was the Olympic problem on year 2015. The Olympic emblem, Tokyo Olympic emblem, was decided once. However, after a lawsuit against the IOC from a Belgian designer, the initial emblem has finally withdrawn. A new emblem has decided on April 2016. The designer was a Japanese Mr. Tokoro. And summer 2019, there was a world track competition held at Doha, Qatar. Because of the heat over 30 degrees Celsius, 40% of the athletes withdrew or retired from the competition at that time. Due to that issue, on October 2019, marathon for Tokyo Olympics, originally scheduled to be held at central Tokyo, moved to Sapporo, a northern city of Japan, because of the expected heat at the Olympic period. And you know, that is not the end of the story, as you are well aware. On March 24, 2020, last year, IOC agreed with the Japanese government and all the concerned to extend 1 year the whole event because of the worldwide novel coronavirus infection expansion. Now today, in May, today is May 11th, already in Japan, but I believe many of you are May 10. Say so from May 10, figure-wise, until the opening of the games of 32nd Olympiad in Japan, in Tokyo, there is 73 days only. And at that time, 339 events and 33 sports, and total athlete more than 12,000 from 205 countries and areas is expected. And for the 16th Paralympics in Tokyo, there is another 105 days. And at that time, 537 events in 22 sports, total athletes about 4,400 from 96 countries and areas are expected. Now, after the general information, next, I will share some of the most recent news concerned to Tokyo Olympic. First, March 20, the General Assembly of Main Five Party. The Five Party means IOC, International Olympic Committee, and the second is IPC, International Paralympic Committee, and the third is Tokyo Organizing Committee of Olympics and Paralympics, and fourth is Tokyo Metropolitan Government, and the last is Japanese government. That five has decided and agreed not to accept spectators from overseas, sadly. And April 6, the North Korea announced they will not send athletes to the Olympic. And April 23rd, the Japanese government announced third state of emergency starting from April 25 to May 11th. Later, on May 7th, this has extended until May 31. So we're now under state of emergency. And April 28, the main five party I just mentioned has agreed to decide the maximum audience limit standard for facilities like stadiums within coming June. So the maximum standards are not actually decided yet. And May 5, this is my latest news, which I have. After marathon test at Sapporo, the northern city in Japan, Mr. Sebastian Coe, the head of the world governing body of track and field, gave a stamp of approval, but also mentioned he doesn't believe any Olympic Games have been delivered under more difficulty, and these games have an overlay of complexity that is beyond most comprehension. So still, there are many difficulties, and hardly the Olympic are on the track to commence now. Next, now let me share some of the Olympic logistics information. Actually, Yamato Transport, the company I belong, is one of the official sponsors for the Tokyo Olympic, concerned to domestic transport and custom brokerage. Actually, cost for a transport related to Olympic athletes' equipment are basically paid by each participating country related door to door. Some paid by each government, some by local sports association or federation or sponsor companies or athletes herself. It really depends. Our company manages transport and customs clearance budgeted by Tokyo Organizing Committee of Olympics and Paralympics. I'll call after just the organizing committee because it's too long. And for some athletes equipment and broadcasting equipment and athlete village related equipment and stadium equipment. The organizing committee is an entity consisted by staff of Japanese government, Tokyo Metropolitan Government, any related domestic government or municipality people, and many from Olympic sponsor companies, including us. For example, our company send about 30 staff exclusively to the organizing committee, and they have limited temporary government official status during the event. Currently, there are about 2,000 staff at the organizing committee, and still increasing. Excluding the organizing committee, we have now 30 exclusive staff for Olympics from our company for import customs clearance and etc. And at last, we expect about 2,000 staff at the most who will be directly involved with this huge event at the peak period. For imports, we are expecting about 2,200 shipments from overseas. We're thinking that the peak period would be from May to mid-August, and then return shipment export peak period will be expected from August to late September. We're now expecting to deal about 1,100 20-footer container load volume of cargo, which be about 19,000 cubic meter volume during this period, including both air and ocean cargo. This is general cargo issue. However, this is quite a limited volume compared to all the Olympic related shipments. It is said about 100,000 cubic meter cargo load or more will be totally imported and re-exported from and to more than 200 countries and areas from the world during this special event. We only deal our company only deal for the organizing committee, for example, receiving and sending yachts, sailboats, and canoes, which is international pre-competition from year 2019 in Japan. At every Olympic Games, a local organizing committee funds for some particular sports with limited budget like sailboat games. Organizing committee people says that there is no comparable size of temporary logistics bigger than the Summer Olympics. Yeah. And Olympic logistics includes a huge volume of sponsor-related cargo. You may be aware there are security fence provided when there is a marathon event at the routes in the city for athletes and audience safety. I didn't know, but manufacturer of those security fence are one of the Olympic sponsors. And all these fans will be sent to Japan from overseas. So there's such a logistics happening as well. An example for a very popular sponsor, I believe everybody knows Coca-Cola is a world sponsor for Olympics for long, actually from 1928. Local organizing committee needs to make really sure that Coca-Cola products, names, logo should properly shown on media or any place decided like stadiums. It seems to be a very sensitive part. And concern to import and export customs clearance in general, to make customs clearance process smoother, host country government established a special customs regulation only during the Olympics, and this will be applicable to limited related party, which results to temporary import duty and tax exempted. However, in Japan this time, government did not establish a special rule, but providing special approval to limited entity like the organizing committee, an approval to get Olympic related equipment temporarily imported with duty and tax exempted. As you are well aware, due to the coronavirus infection from last year, now only about 20% of the international passenger flights has resumed until now. And also main seaports worldwide keep struggling due to the infection. So both air and sea transport route is now limited and rates are keeping very high. Olympic equipments transport worldwide are affected, and accordingly, many equipment schedule are now delaying. This is real headache. At last, I wish to share some information from museum exhibition related to the Olympics in Japan, actually. Already from last year, 2020, which used to be the original Olympic year, many Olympic-related exhibitions were held nationwide in Japan. A museum specially for Olympics named Japan Olympic Museum has also newly built and opened on 2019 in central Tokyo in front of the main stadium. All the museums kept open since last June 2020 after the first state of emergency ended. However, currently, due to the announcement of third state of emergency started from April 25, 2021, many museums in Japan, including Tokyo, are now temporarily closed. This is the current rough situation related to Tokyo Olympic in Japan. Hope this can be some of your help. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Shige. I have a question for you. Are objects that are going to exhibitions getting any sort of, are they being deprioritized as a result of the shipments going for the Olympics?
We don't really feel that. No, actually. The exhibition logistics is also treated high priority, and customs is treating still is keeping high priority. How can I say, cargo?
Right.
So yeah, no specific delay we feel for import part or both export customs clearance in Japan.
Okay. And when does the current state of emergency end?
It is scheduled to end on May 31st.
Okay. And do you think that museums will open at that point as well?
We expect, yes. Actually, we're preparing for the recovery. Yeah. Actually, the state of emergency extended once, and actually the figure of the infected are now not really decreasing, but hope it will decrease in a week or two.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Well, stay safe out there. We wish you the best, and we hope that the state of emergency ends at the end of the month as planned.
Thank you very much.
If anyone has further questions for Shige, make sure you sign into your Google account and post them in the chat on YouTube as we watch. We're going to move on to our next guest for an update on the Middle East and what's going on there. We're going to welcome Paul Williamson from Constantine to discuss the advancements and the updates over there. And since we started late, maybe we'll just be brief, as brief as possible, so that we can not extend too much beyond the normal anticipated hour. Okay, thanks. Turning over to you, Paul.
Thanks, John. I'll be quick as I can. So basically today I'm going to give a very brief, I added the word brief in then to what you just said, John, summary on the transfers in the Middle East, which is frequently used for shipments to and from many countries worldwide. The two airports I will talk about today, which I use on a frequent basis, are Doha, which is in Qatar, and Dubai, which is in United Arab Emirates. So first of all, Doha. So it's called Hamad International Airport. It was opened in 2014. So as you know, when works of art are shipped internationally, lenders may require a courier to represent them or a local agent to undertake the supervision on their behalf. Lenders quite rightly see the transit time at the airport as a vulnerable time of the loan period, and they want to take every possible precaution to ensure the safety of their artwork. Given the recent travel restrictions caused by the worldwide pandemic, couriering has taken on a very different meaning. If lenders require a courier specifically to escort the loans to Qatar, for example, it is more or less impossible at the moment to witness the entire process at this present time, because immediately upon arrival, all passengers arriving in Qatar will be escorted to their quarantine hotel by security. Therefore, they will not be able to be taken to the cargo warehouse on arrival to witness the breakdown of the freight, of the cases. Although yesterday I did read online that they are slowly coming out of lockdown, so hopefully this changes in a not too distant future. Just on it, there's two. So if the works or are traveling, there's a dedicated pallet. So the airport supervisor could go to the aircraft, witness the unloading of the aircraft, the pallets, the movement and delivery of the pallets into the airport secure climate control store. The pallet then will be stored in a marked bay, would not be touched or moved until the airport supervisor is present again for the subsequent movement and loading onto the second flight. Once the flight is prepared for loading, the duty manager normally contacts the airport supervisor, who would then have access to the allocated bay within the secure store to witness the movement of the pallet and loading onto the second aircraft. If it's, however, not booked as a dedicated pallet, so basically you're taking the whole pallet and you've got, say you only have one case, for example, one work, so it's a mixed freight pallet, so there's yours plus other items on there. So the airport supervisor would accompany the pallet from the loading of the aircraft, go to the warehouse to witness the depalletization, and then once it's depalletized, the case will be put into a climate control store, which is locked and secured. And the case, it wouldn't be moved until the airport supervisor is present again. So again, we'd be contacted and watch the palletization. And then obviously once it's done, the airport supervisor would then escort the pallet onto out to the aircraft, the same as a dedicated pallet. Now the storage area is secure and it's climate controlled as well, and it's locked with camera surveillance. Now the couriers can view the depalletization and repalletization through a viewing window, and in some cases can enter the warehouse as well. It just depends on the routes, how busy they are, etc. But that's a quick, I'm speeding up because of time. That's a quick overview of Doha. Dubai is more or less the same. But in Dubai, you have to hire a mandatory to hire a security guard present, and that has to be hired separately. The whole process can be supervised again, but the couriers are not allowed in the warehouse or anything, and they can't see anything. So normally it'd be like a virtual courier where the supervisor would be contacting the courier or the lending institution and giving updates. And also the cases are also stored in air-conditioned rooms whilst in transit. So it's a similar thing. Saudi Arabia, it's not so much of I just want to add, it's not so much of a sort of transit hub, but cargo lots do sometimes use Dammam and Riyadh as transit airports, but it's not as frequently. But supervision in the cargo warehouse with couriers can happen. And also, we can also undertake airside supervisions as well. So that's a very, very brief summary, but obviously keeping it quick because of time.
As a collections manager myself, my first thought was, is it possible to hire a bookend courier that's local to supervise any palletization or depalletization at the airports, or is that just not done? If you're using the airport as a transit hub, is that possible, Paul?
It is possible, yes. In fact, we have I mean, depends. There's two ways of looking at it. We have an exhibition coming up in Doha shortly, where in fact the institution are going to send a courier in advance. I mean, this is not answering your question directly, but indirectly. And they're going to send a courier in advance to do the quarantining, and that then person will be free for the whole time. But yes, it is possible to hire bookend couriers in those UAE, Doha, and Saudi.
Okay, so you could hire someone to oversee the supervision at the airport between flights, for example.
Yes.
Perfect.
As well as the supervisor doing it. They could be there to witness as well. Yes, it's possible.
That's great to hear. That's great to hear. So far, we don't really have any questions. We have a good amount of people listening, but no questions in the chat. Oh, one just came up. Just stoked the flames there. Paul, by airport supervisor, do you mean the staff of the airport itself or staff of a fine arts broker?
Fine arts broker. So it would be undertaken by the agent's representative. Person working for them, not a representative, person working for the agent.
Perfect. If you have any other questions for anyone on the panel, please throw them in the chat. If not, we're going to continue on to discuss what's happening in the world of art fairs. To discuss the topic with us, we have Deidre O'Connell from Dietl International in New York, Luciano Forhoff from Mobile Transport Basel, and Ida Ng from Helutrans. And where are you now, Ida? Are you in Singapore or are you in Hong Kong?
Unfortunately, in Singapore right now.
Okay. Doesn't seem like a bad place. All right, so I guess who are we going to start with today? Deidre, you want to talk first?
Do you want to start regarding your first experiences regarding the freeze fair that is actually now deinstalling, I think?
Yeah, deinstalling here in New York,
talk
right?
about that right now because that's where all our art fair team are at present. Probably the most interesting or important facts are the effects of COVID on the venue. The choice of venue is different this year. Previously, the fair was held on Randall's Island, and now it's been moved to a relatively new venue called The Shed, which is newly constructed in Hudson Yards. It's much smaller and different type of space. It's on 3 floors. There are about 60 booths, or there were 60 booths. The fair closed yesterday, which is about a quarter of the usual number of exhibitors. And the venue was running at 25% capacity, which is actually 100 visitors per floor. Because of social distancing, limit of numbers, this meant that no art handling companies were allowed in the fair during open hours, which has a big impact on the companies trying to work for their clients, because a lot of the work that goes on during the fair is swapping in and out of new works, either as they're sold or as they're required, or they decide to rehang their booths. So none of that work can be done during business hours. So all of that is being done at night after 8 p.m. Because of the limitations. There are different limitations on getting trucks into the venue. Overall, as well, there's quite a hefty burden of administration just to do with COVID testing. All vendors had to go through, well, I guess everyone, exhibitors and everyone went through COVID training PowerPoint. They complete daily questionnaires similar to the ones that many galleries and museums use, where you have to answer various questions about symptoms and who you've been in touch with. Everyone, of course, has to either be vaccinated or have a rapid test. And there's also rapid testing going on site for vendors every 4 days. So yeah, that in itself was a huge administrative task ahead of the fair in advance of actually organizing people's booths. The Frieze organization team only got clearance themselves to come from the UK to New York by some special presidential dispensation where they were allowed visas and allowed to travel, and arrived just 1 week before the fair. The whole access for trucks and artwork is again much more limited, with only 2 docks, as opposed to five docks at Randall's Island, and also an additional 7 or 8 staging positions for trucks in a kind of marshalling yard. So loading in, it was a really very, very lengthy process. And for the get out, because of trucking restrictions in Manhattan, they were only able to start at midnight last night, and they have to be out by 6 p.m. tonight. So, but it seems unlikely that that's going to happen. So they'll be there until it's done.
What about getting shipments in and out of the airports? Any problems or new protocols there?
No, everything is still pretty much the same.
Okay.
Regarding the fair, there was very little. There was actually almost no import. All the exhibitors were mainly US galleries or galleries from overseas, maybe less than 10 international galleries, but who also have a US presence.
Okay.
Yeah, in general, the situation with air freight in and out is pretty unchanged.
Quiet. Yeah. Ida, tell us what's going on out east. What's happening in Asia?
Well, it's going to be another 5 days before the moving in date. We're doing a countdown right now, and this year is going to be very, very different. And I think a lot of you know that Basel has decided to do a hybrid art fair this year, which means that all those overseas galleries who are unable to go to Hong Kong to endure the 21 days quarantine period will have to just send in their works to the so-called satellite booths. Okay, and these booths do not have anyone to man the booth. I mean, they do have someone stand by from the organizer itself, but the client will have to scan a QR code. And if they're really interested, they can actually have a direct link with the galleries. So this year, working at a fair is very challenging, because usually what we will do is we will so-called import a lot of foreign technicians from Europe. But this year, because of the border control quarantine, we have to rely on local resources. And I think same for the organizer itself. Everyone is working within the local Hong Kong team right now. So for us, in terms of the participating galleries, I remember in 2019, they used to have 248, but this year there's only 104. And with about, I think, 80+% from overseas, and some of the galleries actually decided to take on the 21 days quarantine. I know one of the US gallery did that because they want to be close to the local buyers. But in terms of the scale itself, the size used to be 2 floors, but right now it's scaled down to only 1 floor. So the size is about 40% of the previous editions. And what the organizer is doing this year is that they're doing a staggering move in and move out period. Because majority of the galleries are not around. So what they're doing is that they're throwing in free condition reports by conservators. And with a very limited resources, they decide to give free freight forwarders a dedicated session. So for example, for Helutrans itself, we are taking the 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. first lot on the first day on the 15th for all the satellite booths. And they will give us an order in terms of which gallery you have to move the works first. So when we offload the crates, we have to put them into a main storage area. And according to when the conservators will finish the work itself, we will have to move the crates to the next booth. So for us itself is, the resources is very, very scarce for us. It gives us the add-on difficulties in terms of pressure on us in terms of resources, the manpower, because we will have to assist the conservator to open up the crates for him to do the checking. And thereafter, we can start to do the official installation. And this year installation and the move-in itself, they decided to do it in 2 days. First day is for satellite booths, and the second day, the local galleries will move in on the second day itself, and same as moving out. On the first day, when the fair closed at 6 o'clock, they divided the whole fairground into 2 zones. Zone 1 will be able to work inside, where Zone 2 can only come back on the next day, which is something that we've never heard of, because Basel, Hong Kong is the fair that has the tightest turnaround schedule. Usually we will move in at 6:30 and we were being chased out by 5 a.m. in the morning. So this year is luxurious for us. We have more than 1 day to play with. But again, we have to go according to the rules itself, Zone 1 first. And even we have Zone 2 with the galleries that is being present, we can't do anything at all. I think this is something new. No one has tried out before, and we're not sure how it works, but I think with so many rounds of meeting with the organizer lately, I have confidence that it's going to be a good show in terms of logistics on our side itself. But for the locals in Hong Kong, I think everybody is longing to see go to an art fair. So I hope this is going to be a success.
Great to hear. Is there currently any state of emergency or any sort of lockdown in Hong Kong, or is it everything pretty much open?
It's pretty okay right now. For dining, I think we can go up to 4 to 6 to 8 person. Used to be 2 person. And right now for us to go in, the same thing like what Deidre mentioned earlier on, we have to do COVID tests a couple of days before the fair opens. But the COVID test is only meant for the official fair days until the fair close. So for us moving in itself, we don't really have to do the COVID test. We just have to show them the badges. That's fine. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. If anyone has any questions, please let us know. We're going to, if we missed anybody, we're going to get back to you. Luciano, tell us about what's happening in Europe.
Yes, I'm referring to the Art Basel, where I just had a meeting 1 week ago. I didn't share their optimism in the beginning, but starting now to get all this news from the government in Switzerland that we are allowed very soon to have events, 10,000 people, for instance, or also with the quarantine, we don't have a lot of countries still have to go through the quarantine. We are looking forward now very much for September, because the Art Fair Basel is now instead of June in September, which was probably a very smart move. they are really moving forward for the same procedure like in 2019, means they have no cancellations over 300 galleries. They have the same size, everything. Of course, all the security will change and all the measurements from the health authorizations from Bern, they will change the whole procedure, but I hope that we don't have the same strict measurements like in New York, what I have seen at the Freeze homepage, which is pretty tough, to be honest. But I doubt it first because of the situation. It's going to be September, and that I'm looking very much forward that we will have most likely a very good fair with almost the same size. So yeah.
Is Basel or Switzerland in general under any lockdown or state of emergency, or is it generally open?
No, I think we were in a very fortunate situation that the government treated it a little bit different. We had once, I think 1 or 2 months, really a lockdown. That was a year ago. And since then, I mean, the restaurants, they had to be kept closed. Now they're open since 3 weeks, but only outside on the terrace, like in Italy, for instance. But the rest of it, it moved on. And also the shipping business, pretty much now the same like it used to be. Except that we are paying a lot of, but this will be another subject, I think. The air freight rates are very, very outrageous sometimes.
Right. All right. Well, thanks so much for the report. If anyone has any further questions, please put them in the chat. But if not, it looks like we're going to go on to our final topic, which is cargo freighters between the United States and Europe. And here to talk about that are Antonio Addari from Arteria in Milan, Tina Sullivan from Masterpiece in Los Angeles, and Marco Oosterwijk from Hizkia van Kralingen in the Netherlands. And to kick us off, why don't we start with Antonio?
Thank you, John. Hi, everybody. Just a quick update about the situation with the freighters from Italy to United States. Milan in these last years has been growing as one of the main hub for freighters in the south of Europe, maybe the only one. We have so many airlines, freighters stopping in Milan. We have Cargolax, which is the main one, but also we have Qatar Airways, and also for other destinations in East, we have Airbridge, Nippon Cargo, Korean, Silkway, so many airlines that, as we already said, they never stopped really. In these last weeks, there are more flights, and the connection with the United States is mainly with Cargolax. We have a direct flight, non-stop, from Milan to JFK on Sunday. We have 2 flights, Qatar, originating from Doha, stopping in Milan, and then destination is Chicago O'Hare Airport, with 2 flights on day 4, which is Thursday, and day 7, which is Sunday. And then we have many other flights, passenger flights. So that means lower deck for destination, again, from Milan to JFK. We have many options. There is Delta, American Airlines, Emirates also stopping in Milan and going to JFK. But also from Fiumicino Rome Airport, we have 2 flights from Alitalia to New York and Delta to Atlanta. These last one are again only lower decks of passenger flights, but you can use them quite a lot for many shipments. And what is important also that we have 3 flights per week Cargolax connecting Milan to Luxembourg. And from there, we have, it's not direct, but with one stop in Luxembourg, we have destination in many other airports in the United States, like San Francisco, Miami, Los Angeles, so many other possibilities. And probably the last one that I want to note is that there are 2 flights direct originating from United States. They are inbound for us from Los Angeles and Chicago. This is also Cargolax stopping first stop directly in Milano Malpensa. So it's no stop flight from Los Angeles, but this is only outbound from United States, while on the other way from Milan to Los Angeles, it goes through Luxembourg. And so this is main flights that we have. With a situation that is operating normally, and just probably like Luciano already said, main problem at the moment is are the rates and the requests from the airlines. Mainly is not only the higher rates, but also the fact that normally is not possible to receive fixed rates in advance. You can just have the final rates when you do the booking. So that is going to make a bit of problems for us working many times with budget ahead and estimates, etc. So really, this is something that you have to discuss, and you have to deal on a last minute with the airlines.
Thanks so much for the update. I did have one question, Antonio. What about couriers? Are they allowed on the flights?
Not yet from these airlines. We are totally operative in terms of supervising in the cargo shed, in the cargo area. So our supervisor can, and also couriers from museums, book and couriers can go on in the warehouse to supervise the palletization or depalletization, but they are not allowing couriers on the flights at the moment, not yet.
We do have one question. Does Qatar flying direct from MXP, is that Malpensa to Chicago, or do they make a stop in Spain?
No, it's direct.
It's direct.
Yeah, it's Doha, comes from Doha, Malpensa, and Chicago.
Okay.
It's the 747 twice a week.
Thank you so much. Next, let's, who's up? Tina, Marco, you're going to flip for it? Tina, you're up. Oh, no, Marco, she's going to put you on the spot.
I will start. Yeah, for the airports of the Benelux, so Brussels, Liège, Amsterdam, and Luxembourg, it's basically the same situation as Antonio described. Flights are running, the freighter flights are pretty booked out, so we have the same issue with the freight rates, which are not confirmed until the very last moment. And sometimes even the airlines come back to us and ask us for a higher rate. So that's something that you definitely have to take into account if you're booking shipments. We see a small increase of loan traffic, not so much yet. There's some acquisitions, but we see a small increase. Couriers are allowed on the airports in terms of depalletization and palletizing. We can get the couriers inside the warehouse. That's not a big issue. On board of the flight, it's not allowed yet. In terms of passenger flights, they are running, but they're also low on capacity in terms of freight. So the rates are also higher. And of course, people can go on board the passenger flights, for example, from KLM, but most museums are not doing that. They're sending their loans uncouriered, and that's basically the situation for the Benelux. So there's not been a big change, apart from a small increase of loan traffic.
Great, thank you. And Tina, what's going on in Los Angeles?
I'll try to make it real quick. In terms of cargo flights, we have quite a few that are available, actually probably more than ever. I mean, we've been really reliant on those for the last year. I think the one really encouraging thing that's coming up is that it looks like the EU is going to open up travel to US citizens this summer, which we're really hoping is going to add lift because we'll have more passenger flights. I think that's been one of the concerns, I know we talked about it on another call, is budgets, because a lot of the budgets that we had planned were based on passenger travel, so that we could get directly to, you know, Paris and Milan and Rome on passenger flights, which we haven't had in the last year, but our budgets have been reliant on these. And so if at present, if we're relying solely on cargo flights like we have been, you know, there's a lot of extra costs for trucking involved. So we're really hoping that once at least the US is open to Europe, that's going to change things. So that's kind of a big positive. The prices in the US on our flights have not increased, I think, to the same level as it has in Europe. One thing we have noticed is that some carriers that we could formerly, you know, always book priority freight are only allowing us to book general cargo. I think they don't want the hassle of us bugging them. Why is our freight getting bumped? Or, you know, pushing our freight on the cargo because it's priority. And it's kind of an odd thing. You think they want the money, but really they just want the ease of their flight. So that's something that we've noticed on a couple carriers. And the other thing, domestically in the US, we've been able to, we have quite a number of flights, but a lot of the ones that were the smaller flights we'd have once a week, they're coming back and then they're gone the next week. So, you know, just, I think it's like everything in the last year, it's just being able to be a little bit flexible is pretty much the only thing I can say, but it's looking better. We're getting excited here. I'm looking forward for the fall.
Great. I think the chatter that I hear from a lot of my colleagues is that everyone's planning for the fall, and I assume you're seeing that in your companies as well, right? As you plan out your logistics. All right, so Paul, we actually had someone have a question for you in the chat, and of course, you know, your people listening, please put your questions in the chat for the panel. We had someone asking about quarantine periods in the Middle East. Can you update us on how long people are required to quarantine if they come into the country?
Which country? Qatar is 11 days, but that's it's pretty rigorous. So as I said there, as soon as you arrive, you're escorted to a hotel, and they normally have quarantine hotels per whichever country you come from. In Saudi, you can't, if you're in, say, Europe, say Italy, Germany, UK, various countries, you can't fly directly to Saudi. You have to quarantine in a non-red list country for 14 days, then go into Saudi. UAE depends which Dubai, Abu Dhabi. It's changing all the time. It's on the red list for the UK, but you have to quarantine. Depends week to 11 days. It depends where you're arriving into. So it is changing, and they're due to announce in Saudi on the 17th of May quarantine rules. Qatar's easing restrictions. So I'm hoping that the numbers are coming down in the Middle East. So I'm hoping that we don't have to quarantine so much.
Paul, can I ask a question? I just want to ask for transit couriers. How do they quarantine? They just take them to a hotel just for the 7 hours they're on the ground, or how does that work?
Depends. Qatar, you can't. In Qatar, you're either in the country or out the country. So a courier, if they're transiting, they just have to stay airside. They can't come out, not that they would anyway, because they don't have to quarantine. In Saudi, it depends where you're flying from, and the same with the UAE. I think it just depends which country you go. I guess for you, US. But if you're transiting, you just have to stay airside. You probably won't be able to see much, certainly not in Qatar.
Does it matter? I mean, this is a question I have for anyone. Does it matter if you have proof of vaccination? Does it help entering a country or with quarantine periods or anything like that?
Okay, right now I think they are. I mean, IATA, I think a lot of airlines now, Gulf Air, Qatar, I think BA, to some extent, are you doing vaccination flights? So you have to be vaccine free. I think Qantas have done it already. But I saw in Qatar, for example, if you're vaccinated in a GCC country, then you can enter Qatar without quarantine, and that's going to be announced soon. And I think also in Saudi, they're saying if you're vaccinated, or even if you've had COVID, then you can come in. Possibly they're going to announce it soon. So it just depends on which country and I guess where you're flying from.
Great, thank you. It's good to know. So if you're independent courier, registrar, up your rates if you're going to travel with those vaccinations, if you're vaccinated. We do have a question. Is CAL accepting onboard couriers on its freighters from Liège to JFK? Maybe this is a question for Marco.
No, they are not.
We have perhaps one of your colleagues in the chat, Kai Nissen from Frankfurt, saying that most couriers can supervise palletization in Frankfurt, but there's similarly no couriers allowed on the freighters. So
looks like it's the same situation in Europe.
Yeah. Any other comments? It looks like we've answered pretty much everything from the chat. This is your last chance to get any final questions in. It seems we've caught up a little bit from our delay, so we appreciate everyone sticking with us through the technical issues. But if not, we're gonna wrap things up here, and we appreciate our esteemed panel for joining us again today and providing the updates. And we appreciate all the listeners listening in and participating in the chat. We hope to do this again soon, and please send us your feedback. And of course, we want everyone to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can get all the latest updates for the new videos that we put out. And then also, of course, visit fortheloveofart.info. For all the latest information, because there's actually a lot more information that's published on a regular basis about these updates on the website, so you don't have to wait for the next month or the next month and a half to get a new update. So please check in there. Okay, we got some people trying to slide in their questions at the last minute. All right, so stay tuned. All right, one more question. What is the status of couriers on trucks? Perhaps this is dependent on country. Anyone want to provide?
In the UK, we can carry couriers. We have special sort of dividing screens in the cabs of the truck, so we have been carrying couriers. Yes.
In Switzerland we can, but we usually have a follow car. Mm-hmm. We prefer this version, but from the government we could.
Great to hear.
In the US, it's the same. We can do it. A lot of the owner-operator trucks, if you know the long-distance trucks, it's kind of up to them. They own them, but we're doing a lot of followed cars as well.
Great. Sounds like it's pretty universal.
Yeah, the same.
Yeah. In Spain, we have the same situation. We can ride couriers on trucks, no problem, but we have to follow all the preventive measures very strictly.
Yeah. Not in Asia.
In Japan, there's no specific prohibition. If customer wish to get on the truck, they will, but many customers now doesn't get on the truck as a courier at the moment. Yeah.
Is that the same for you, Ida? Same
in China and Singapore and Hong Kong.
Great, thank you. All right, I think we're gonna end it there. Once again, subscribe to the YouTube channel and visit fortheloveofart.info for even more updates. again, we appreciate you listening and hope to see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.